Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Deeg podcast. Today, I have for you a conversation with Michael Henderson, a man better known to most of us as Wrel. Wrel announced a month ago that he was departing Rogue Planet Games, the developers of Planetside 2, after having worked there for 7 years on Planetside. It's the end of an important period in Planetside 2's development and the beginning of a new period in Rel's life. And I knew from the moment I heard the announcement that I would want to catch up with him to find out why he left and what he's up to next. Please enjoy my conversation with Rel.
You'd probably end up asking this, but the long and short of it is that the company's goals and my personal goals didn't align. I
Mm,
didn't see myself in that particular future with what they had planned, rather. So
mhm.
I think that it's as good a time as any to part ways. And man, just been getting wicked burnt out over the past 2 years prior, as well as I kind of mentioned in my
I could
video.
tell.
Yeah. So now, I mean, the goal is I just want to sit in a basement and make games and just do something I enjoy and make them just for me.
Not be
And if you like it,
accountable to anyone
cool.
else, not manage
Right.
anybody. Yeah,
No,
yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So the changing of direction, is that a slow burn over time, or is something that's come through? Like, don't say any more than you want to, but I'm just kind of contextualizing in my head.
Sorry, how do you mean?
Um, you said that at the end of the day, that the company's direction didn't line up with what your personal goals were. You're a very goal self-directed guy. I respect that. I relate to that. Is that like a slow burning thing that you could see coming in terms of the dissonance, let's say?
I I want to say that things shifted rather quickly for me.
Okay.
Um, yeah,
I know how that goes at jobs. Things can change
the
quick.
right. There's only so much that I could that I really want to get into.
Certainly. There are still people
But yeah.
there who I'm sure you like, and like you, so I hope they do. I guess I can ask them and find out and get the real deal.
No,
So,
yeah. Feel free.
yeah.
Send a message.
Yeah.
No, all
Yeah.
those folks are good. I I had a really good team to work with, and I think that's part of the reason that I hung around for as long as I did.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Mm. Who are you gonna
but
miss from the team? No, no, you don't have to answer that either, because that I
very
don't want.
specific people. I'm
Yeah,
not going
like
to answer it.
I asked that, and
Yeah,
now I'm just like,
I'll
oh,
tell
but
you who I won't miss.
who? Yeah, right. Let's just start there. No, I can't.
Right.
I can't do that. I don't know. I'm just. It's wild. It's wild because I don't know. I was thinking about it, man. Planetside is, as a fan, has been a really fun game to be involved in the community with for tons of reasons, but one of the biggest ones being that for some reason we got lucky enough to have lead devs who were crazy enough to get on camera and talk to us for years. I mean, first there was Higby and a lot of the other folks closer to launch, and then quiet period, and you came on, and like that's pretty. It's pretty unusual for someone in that position to be as open, honest, and interactive as you and Higby were.
Yeah, I kind of wonder if so. That's a little bit of a double-edged sword, the community interaction. I mean, anything I say is controversial,
Yeah.
potentially, and it can put the organization in a tricky position if they're not just on it and able to control a message, have people who can support a message, that sort of thing.
Right.
And me being very much solo in the people that I talk to and the things that I say, I think that the company probably would have rather me taken a back seat in more situations, but also I
Mhm.
don't think that we would have been as successful if we as we were because we need the game the game is small enough
Mhm.
and the team is small enough to where you need to treat it almost like an indie project
Mm.
where every when you look at indie games, most of them are very grassroots. They talk to
Mhm.
the community, they're very involved, and
Yeah.
that's what they build off of because they need that sort of um, you
Trust.
need and like an yeah, exactly. I would say like, evangelists for the game
Mhm.
to help it succeed. And that was one of the things that I believed in and kind of why I tried to, for better and for worse, speak with the community and the content creators as often as I can manage.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I appreciate it. It's been a really cool privilege to get the chance to interview you. I think some of the community rolls their eyes that I'm the guy who gets to interview you. Like I won some kind of a contest or something. Why did you decide to talk to me in the first place anyway?
um, you're not the only offer that I've received.
Uh huh.
Um, I'll say that much. But I look forward to talking to you the most,
Mm,
because you're more level-headed, introspective, and kind of just a good interviewer.
mm. Thank you.
Yeah, I enjoy that, and I think that we have a lot in common, kind of just with how we approach certain topics and ideas, and I don't know, maybe just the state of being in general.
Sure.
So I would say that um, people
Yeah.
can roll their eyes all they want.
Yeah. Same wavelength, man.
We're
No, I feel that too, dude. That's why I look so much forward to talking to you too. And I'm actually kind of when I heard that you were moving on, I saw the post. A bunch of people reached out to me just to kind of see, get a quick reaction from me, and the one I had a strong feeling, and I was trying to figure out how to put it into words, and what I came up with was good for him. That's what I came up with. I think that maybe because of our special connection, I have a sense of how hard pressed and how burnt out you were. And I talked to some of your harshest critics. I know the way that a lot of that goes down. And the deeper I look into it, the more I think that making a game like Planetside the right way is it's it seems pretty close to impossible to do really well and right and keep most people happy. So, and you were there for 7 years, man. And before that, you were working on the game still. You were doing the YouTube thing. So it's been like what, like a decade since you haven't had to think about Planetside every day?
yeah,
Shit.
yeah, dude.
Shit.
Yeah, I mean, most people can't even hold a job for a year, or isn't that like the average? I can't remember the last
Is
time I
that
checked,
true?
but yeah, yeah.
Oh,
I'm sure
man.
it's within a certain age range,
Right.
especially
People
younger,
working at
but
restaurants. Yep.
right. But it's man, I the history at this organization, um, much of it public, has been tumultuous. Like you've seen kind of dev teams come and go, and
Mhm.
games
Mhm.
come and go,
Mhm.
and so it was a very interesting experience to be in the place that I was and kind of just marching forward. I mean, I don't want to sound boisterous or anything, but I was there because it was I wanted to see like the game succeed. And I just wanted to just keep pushing for it. And like, hey, we got to do this thing. We got to do this thing. And I feel like at times it came at cost to the team, even especially when we're on the small team.
Mhm.
The
Mhm.
the burden that we had to shoulder was, I think it was, I don't know, it was a lot, but I think less so from the company and more from the community, and also because
Mhm.
of my pushing. I think that I've certainly rubbed people the wrong way. I certainly could have handled some things better on that smaller team, but we had to be rock stars in order to even like make things go. And then
Mhm.
even when the team ramped up, I think there was definitely, despite how large the team got, I feel like there was a lot that was, I don't know, for some reason I keep feeling like it was always the same level of work, where it was like
Huh.
constantly push, 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 push. Yeah, it's weird, right?
That is weird.
And I can't really put my finger on it, but it felt a lot like we were treading water,
Mhm.
regardless of what we were working on. Because I put out like a message toward the end of last year, I
Uh-huh.
think, or a little bit before that, talking about slowing down development because
Right.
things are just getting too unwieldy, and that's going to come at cost. Lo and behold, population starts to decline and that sort of thing. It should be expected.
Yep.
Not to mention some of the knock-ons that were created from like the 10th anniversary update, where we just the hackers come back, and then
That was a
capture the
bummer.
flag. Obviously, not capture the flag wasn't super
Ah,
exciting
I so
for
wanted
people.
CTF to be great, man. I so
Me
wanted it to be
too.
great.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of potential there, but
Mhm.
need more room and time for experimentation. And I don't know how tolerant people are nowadays.
Sure.
And then server performance was like,
Ugh,
man, that was the one thing I feel like that roasted us for the longest period of time, because it took like what 6 months almost to get it cleaned out.
yeah.
And that's the thing that I like. We're constantly working on it, but those player numbers are just going to continue to drop because, despite how vocal the community was about it, there's even more people who are leaving, because the game is just unplayable. So
Mhm. Mhm.
having to,
Quietly
I
leaving.
feel like,
Mhm.
yeah, I feel like there was just constantly challenges to overcome, regardless of what we tried to do, whether it's slow down or whether it's
Sure.
do make an update that we know we can pull off. Man, it was always something.
Interesting. Huh. The sense that no matter how where you set your aim or how many people you have to achieve it, it still feels like same level of success, same amount of throughput. That's really interesting.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean, man, it made sense to me when you came out with that message last year about slowing things down. I think that seeing that message, thinking about it, um, it got me thinking about like if I could look at Planetside 2 like in a bunch of eras, I think there are a few obvious inflection points, like escalation, obviously an inflection point, and there are some points before that too. Um, but I asked myself, like, what characterizes Rel's time at the helm of Planetside 2? And what I came away with was the word ambition. And I think that that's what impresses me most about when I look back at what you tried to tackle with the team. And, I know there are a lot of people there. It's not all you, buddy. But uh adding a fourth faction, making a new continent, creating a competitive format with 100 dudes on a map, a brand new thing with a tournament bracket and everything. Um these are not, let's just make sure the core game works and keep the existing people happy. This is like, no, we Planetside deserves more, and we're gonna try or bleed on the way there.
Yeah, it was definitely, ambition is something that I've always strived for. Because, and part of it, I feel like, is just always trying to make the game something that it try to reach unrealized potential.
Mhm.
And a lot of what we did, escalation and otherwise, it I think at the end of the day, it kind of just, I think we're kind of stuck with what we have.
Yeah.
Like there's only so much that we can do. If you look at back at just the patch notes and just the years of development,
Mhm.
it's a lot has changed. and even a lot of small things too, like a lot of even like bugs that have been around for like 6 to 10 years, have gotten like cleaned up under uh, my era.
Mm, mm.
But it at the same time just doesn't feel like, man, it's just really hard to win, and that's something that I was very averse to coming to terms with, because I just like want to do more. We need to do better. Need to
Yeah.
make things that people can enjoy, because you can't just sustain a game on just like having like a solid experience. The
Mhm.
nostalgia hits from the '90s can definitely do that, like games like CS:GO, and I mean that's probably the big one, but like Team Fortress 2 is still like kicking around and that sort of thing. But
Those are
even
the
then,
grand
I mean,
exceptions to the rule. As
exactly,
long as those games have servers, that's all people need.
for sure. And nowadays, there's so much competing for people's time and attention
Mhm.
that you have to keep drawing people back into the game.
Mhm.
Yeah, if you and the interesting challenge with Planetside 2 is the less people there are, the less enjoyment that you're having
Yeah.
ultimately.
You feel
So,
it. You feel it really immediately when things aren't great.
right, it's
As a tough
it's a very
challenge.
difficult, right.
And, like, the way that Planetside feels, like, I mean, this when it's good, it feels like the coolest, like, AAA first person shooter experience you can have, where tons of things are going on, you can choose tons of ways to play, there are tons of things to engage with, and it's interesting because it manages to pull off that feeling despite a relatively small community, a small number of people who play it compared to a lot of other, popular first person shooters people might compare PlanetSide to. And I that seems like such a hard draw of the deck to get to. We've launched a game. Now let's keep iterating on it. And what you have is this thing, that has a community of a few thousand players, but you have to have 1,000 of them playing together in order for it to feel good. Damn, man.
It's rough, dude. Like, what do you think about it, man? If so, a game like Warframe, just as an example,
Yeah.
very
Okay.
PVE driven,
Yep.
and so regardless of the content that you put out, I mean, players might be happy, players might not be happy, but it's going to be around and it's going to be just as fun,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
statically just as fun. For us, we have to keep iterating, make more, do more, bring people back into the game,
Hmm.
and then also we're reaching the limits of our like design space,
Sure.
for the veterans and stuff too, to where you see, whenever there's any explosive weapon added to the game, the core community is like, why? But there's only so much that you can kind of do, and also there's a lot of different, I guess, flavors of content that people enjoy. There's a reason that we cater to vehicle players and cater to infantry players and cater to construction players,
Yeah. Yeah.
in different ways and all at the same time.
Hmm.
And I feel like if Planetside 2, way back in the day when it was initially designed, had a more well defined vision for vision's not even the right word, honestly. I think it's created hard limitations on what they were willing to embrace.
Mm.
So, for example, like, should players be able to get vehicles 100% of the time?
Mm.
We made a decision at some point back in 2016-ish to say, like, hey, is this the thing we want, or is this the thing that we don't want? It was with the Combined Arms Initiative,
Right.
just talking it
Right.
over with the other designers,
Hmm.
and where we landed was like, these players have been doing this for a while, and we're going to lose them if they don't.
Yeah.
Surprise,
Yeah.
ended up losing a lot of them anyway, to try to like broaden the appeal. But it's
Live and learn.
yeah, it's crazy, man. It's just
Yeah, you get
you're
locked
yeah.
in. Like, how much of a sense when you started working with the team? I know you like did some contracting at first before you came in, and obviously you were there for a while before you, were sort of had the responsibility to determine the overall direction, design, whatever. Um, How much of a sense did you have of being locked into a previous design decisions versus how much were you just sort of wide-eyed and excited to go get it? Like, what was the how did you feel when you were going into it back then?
Way back in 2016-ish, I was there was so much that the game needed, uh, that it didn't have, like things like optics for pistols. Like, that's not nobody's list to
Uh-huh.
do, but the community
Uh-huh.
has talked about it. And I'm like, I'm gonna do it. Just like make the stuff and use existing
Yeah, man.
optics, and like, yeah, no, that's a thing now. Yeah, so there was a bunch of stuff like that, that I was like very, willing to kind of like jump into and deal with. A lot of weapon balance, kind of like way back, as well. Actually, the team consulted me on certain things, just as like as easy tasks that they could throw me. Just
Mhm.
like pushing numbers around and that sort of thing. Like that
Yeah,
was
sure.
something that helped kind of, dip my toes in the water. Um, yeah, I think that when they at some point the team got, so the people that were there, and I had a very limited experience, with many of them on the Planetside 2 team. Many of them were moved off to H1Z1 because it
Right.
was like booming,
Mhm.
and and while still being able to like consult them, it was pretty much just like us doing kind of our own thing,
Mhm.
with three developers. We received support from various people. Like when we needed, some art or something, we go talk to Bishop or Bill
Mhm.
Yates, and they hook us up. Um, when there were any questions that I had about like how something needed to work as far as the design, or the tools were concerned, that was easy enough to consult, Bishop or Jason Good, or any of uh, these really talented, you know, designers and human beings. Um, so it was it was enough to get me started, and then I just had like a veracity to learn everything. I love just ripping the guts out of like the engine, just like reverse engineering. Like, how does this work? We'll
Yeah.
figure it out.
Wh what makes a lightning a lightning?
Right. Yeah. That sort of stuff is really exciting to me. I love learning and creating.
Mhm.
It's like my lifeblood.
Mhm. Mhm. Designer at heart. So it sounds like more on the wide-eyed and ready to go side of the spectrum compared to the uh, weary veteran, which you earned over the years.
Dying slowly on the inside and out. Yeah.
If you could send a message back to yourself from now to 2016, you're starting. What might you say to yourself to give yourself an edge, other than like lottery numbers and predicting the future?
I would honestly, um, I think a lot of it would be telling myself who to listen to and who not to.
Okay,
There,
okay,
yeah, I don't want to like badmouth
of course,
certain aspects of the community, too much, but it's like community members in particular.
interesting.
There's some voices that are very helpful, and some voices that are very much like, no, this is mine, don't touch it. And over the
Mm,
years, we've had a lot of experiences trying to balance those and like find where, where equilibrium is. And I think if I had some of that information earlier on, I probably could have weighted some of my decisions,
mm.
toward, but then we could make it all the way up to now, and we could be having the same conversation. I don't know.
So how
Hindsight's
do you?
2020, but also this, it's a bit of a
It,
mystery.
it's interesting insight though. That's the one thing you would send back is what's the right advice? How do you know when someone is a good person to listen to versus not? How can you tell?
Yeah, it's a good question, and I think it was something that was proven out over time,
Yeah.
because people can, it's interesting how quickly someone's tune can change
Mhm.
after you do something that they're not excited about. All right.
Mm. Mm,
So that's when like true colors show up.
interesting.
So I think that would be certainly very helpful. I wouldn't tell myself not to make stuff again. I just hope that I can make it better. you know, like don't make the same mistakes.
Mhm.
If I if there was an update that would like really flopped, I could be like, mm, maybe not that one. you know? But aside from that, I don't know. I enjoyed working on the game. It was it was a lot of fun, and even like the community interaction stuff, there is so much more positivity than there is negativity, and a
Mm,
lot of times that's very difficult to see, just through like social media and that sort of thing.
sure.
But in game, man, the amount of messages that I get sent, just whispers very specifically, like, "Hey, thank you for making the game," like,
Hmm,
or like, "That update was awesome," and it's like, thank
that's
you.
cool.
I don't like.
That's
It
nice.
didn't seem that way when looking at these other
Really?
channels. But yeah, yeah. Um, but yeah, so there's a lot I feel that isn't easily surfaced when we have so like Reddit's down right now, right?
Yeah.
As you're well aware.
Yeah.
I have removed myself from the Planetside 2 Discord, so
Okay.
I don't know anything. I'm just kind of been like trying to
Get
distance
some
myself and
distance.
like
Yep.
focus. Um, so I wonder how they're dealing with it. I wonder if it matters.
Mm.
I it's the just the protest though is very interesting to me. It's like feels like an unprecedented amount of power in the hands of the people
It's
to
pretty
instantly make change. Insane.
it's pretty fun. I haven't I will say I haven't missed Planetside subreddit very much, um, as just a casual fan, but the overall protest, yeah, so for anyone who doesn't know, like, um, there are a bunch of subreddits, including some of the biggest ones on Reddit, like I think, like, the Pix community, the Awe community, um, that have put their Discords in lockdown, protesting some changes to the way that Reddit requires developers using their API to pay them. And what this affects is third party apps, mainly mobile apps, that people use, which I use. I use one of the third party apps because the native app is just horrifying to use. Um, Lousy experience. And those app developers can't pay what they will need to pay to stay online. So they're shutting down, and everyone is pissed about this. Um, I think what makes it interesting to me is that we're in this situation where because Reddit has relied so much on these volunteers to regulate their website, that they are paying for not soliciting their feedback in a sense. Even though they're not on the payroll, they're not officially part of the company. They're just, Discord, Reddit mods. I guess Reddit mods, Discord mods, people kind of see them similar. um, I wonder what it'll do. I seen a few headlines. One where there's some kind of report that Google was complaining that the quality of search has gone down without Reddit, which makes sense. Whenever I search stuff on Google, Reddit, tons of results near the top. Um, and I also hear investor um, I don't know, like I guess like the financial speculators talking about how this is going to affect Reddit in the future. Um, because seemingly they have to crack down. They can remove these mods. They're not employees. They don't have to fire them. So what do you do? They're on strike.
It's crazy. That's interesting about that. One thing affecting another, though, like just the ecosystem. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, it sounds like you find it exciting.
I find it amusing.
Okay.
Uh, yeah, because I mean, it was a very easy to access place for feedback
Mhm.
for Planetside 2, and there was also a very specific community that lived there.
Yes.
So I wonder what the quality of feedback and just the I don't know how different the feedback will be, or if it even like again if it even matters
Sure.
for the game.
Hmm. I've seen, I saw a headline today that apparently Minecraft, um, withdrew, apparently they had some official presence on their subreddit. I'm not really sure how they did it, but
Hmm.
they've made an announcement that they're pulling up stakes with changes to the way moderation is gonna work. Um, yeah, I guess it really calls into question how valuable of a product Reddit is when it relies on so much unpaid labor that they seemingly don't have control over, or at least don't get properly aligned with.
Yeah.
As a game dev, do you think this is something that's like an issue with other game devs, or is this like a special Planet Side kind of insight that you're sharing?
How do you mean Reddit?
Yeah, you were saying that you're losing access to certain kinds of feedback and also a certain part of the community. There's some value there, I'm inferring. So do you think other games are other game devs are feeling this loss? Like,
I have to imagine that depending on the type of game that you are and what sorts of feedback forums that you already have in place, the Planetside 2 website, just our forums,
yeah,
it's archaic. But
okay,
like Blizzard, as an example, has a really nice
yeah,
um, way to gather feedback officially,
mm-hmm,
and so they're probably fine. You
mm-hmm,
know, um, but I think for other games that probably rely on the most used social media platform
mm-hmm,
for I mean for the as far as the feedback delivery would go, ease of access. Yeah, it probably hurts, but again, who knows how much it hurts? How many games are actually really heavily feedback driven?
mm-hmm,
If you're keeping like a really good eye on bug reports, or if you're constantly sending out surveys about certain aspects of the game, I don't know that it would really impact your day to day. And also depends on the type of game that you're building. Like if it's
mm-hmm,
PlanetSide 2 is a games as a service, we rely on constant support to generate revenue for the game,
mm-hmm,
which means that you constantly need to be doing updates, and you can't just monetize people or else they're going to get bored. So like other
mm-hmm,
stuff needs to come through too.
mm-hmm,
Bug fixes, quality of life, that sort of thing. So having easily accessible feedback so that you can quickly turn around changes or iterate on like tests,
mm-hmm.
test material, that sort of thing, is super useful.
Sure. Quality of good feedback. How do you get it? How can you tell? You mentioned before that like when a person changes their tune or their attitude towards you because of you doing something that they don't like. That's sort of a tell. Like, okay, like maybe this person isn't being honest, forthcoming, or maybe they don't even know what they want, um, or they're trying to manipulate us. So don't need to listen to that. Are there other tells of either a source of good feedback or a source of bad feedback when it comes to all this?
So I think a lot of it has to be tempered with. So backlash is one thing, and it can be very difficult to discern what is noise and what's going to blow over, and what actually has merit. So back
Hmm.
when initially there were some construction changes, proposed, the construction community kind of blew up about it. And despite being fairly small, they were very vocal, which they
Hmm.
don't tend to be.
Hmm.
It was, to me, it felt very clear in the signal that they were sending, and then also some of the apprehensions that I was having about like doing kind of a partial update. So the result was like, yeah, I don't feel super great about this either. Yes, it would probably be a net positive, but at the same time, there's probably some level of disruption.
Mhm.
If we didn't receive any community feedback, it would have been like, it's a net win. Let's just do it.
Let's do it. Yeah.
But since there was like a strong backlash from a portion of the community that is not constantly hammering us with, you know,
Mhm.
um, uh,
They're not
nonsensical
constantly
feedback or
crying
anything.
wolf.
Exactly.
Mhm.
It was very easy to say like, okay, cool, we're going to hold on to these changes. We'll just write it out for a while we do something that's more holistic, and
Mhm.
then construction update.
Cool. Cool. Interesting. So, it sounds like you just can't replace seeing what people do over time. Seeing what people do and say over time.
Yeah, I think so, because your community is also going to change too,
Mhm.
and I think that that's it's probably something that's undervalued um, as well. Like when you play a game for 1,000 hours, 100 hours, um, maybe less, the ways that you enjoy that game very likely change over time.
Right.
When you look at, for example, World of Warcraft, I think that a lot of their so I look back at how some of the decisions in that game were handled, and it felt like they were trying to do some of the same stuff that we were doing with, like, when you simplify the talent trees so that they are like less deep, or less
Yeah.
complex or whatever.
Yeah, fewer decisions.
It it might make sense on paper because, yeah, easier to understand. This is what I get at this level. This is
Mhm.
what, there's very clear builds that are created from it.
Mhm.
Um,
Every
and
selection has a clear outcome. It's not murky what things do.
right.
Get this
So
ability if
from
you click this talent. Yeah, sorry, go on.
exactly, yeah, from that perspective, it makes sense that that would be a course that they try to travel down.
Mhm.
And some parallels that I would say for Planetside 2 would be, I guess, would be things like combined arms, where the goal was, make vehicles more accessible to everybody, make it so you feel like you can actually fight back, so that you aren't just getting insta gived.
Yeah, some time to
And
kill. Mhm.
right, and the the certain aspects of the community that are going to kind of like push back on that sort of thing. Hey, we like it how it is.
Yeah, of course.
Or but at the same time, we push things in like too far one direction in an attempt to try to like reclaim or like hold on to some of that audience,
Yeah.
and try to make things easier for
Bring
more
it back
players,
to
try to
middle.
like broaden our scope. Yeah, it's all an attempt to hold on to the players that you have, or the most players, and
Mhm.
then also try to open the funnel further so that more players can come in,
Right on.
because that's what sustains the game. Um, and then over time, you see World of Warcraft kind of like hone in again, or kind of like backtrack on some of the talent tree stuff.
They've really narrowed
Um,
in. Yeah, go on.
yeah, yeah, and I feel like their community has kind of changed over time to where I don't know any of the numbers, okay, but I would imagine
Sure.
that with just the kind of the decline in numbers, as all games tend to do,
Mhm.
um, you you're kind of narrowing in on your core, the players that are going to like stick around and what they want. Like,
Yeah.
they are now the majority. What
Yeah.
they want is going to be different from that funnel that you were trying to open earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah. So walking back to, more complex builds, like that's the audience that you're now catering to. And I feel like
Mhm.
Planet 2 ended up there too, to where things have gotten smaller, especially within the past year, I would say, to where probably doesn't make sense to really try to capture the new players. We already tried it with the new player experience update,
Right.
um, and it was never meant to be a silver bullet, but it was something that we spent a lot of time on in hopes
Yep.
that it would make things better.
Mhm.
And realistically, it's hard to say how much help it actually did.
Yeah.
And even all the little changes over time, like the fact that it's way easier to gain certs now, it's way easier to gain experience.
Mhm.
It just there's so many tools that are around to help you like find an outfit. Outfits have reasons to like work together more often and blah 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 blah, blah. I think there's a whole bunch of like new loadouts for or the default loadouts, default loadouts for vehicles, like all of
Yeah.
that sort of stuff.
Starting with a suit
It's
slot unlocked. Yeah.
right, yeah, all that stuff is there have been so many changes in an attempt to kind of like widen that funnel, and realistically, don't know how much it's actually helped,
Yeah.
which is a really weird. I think
That's
you're
gotta
probably
be so
just
frustrating.
fighting. Yeah, I think you're fighting the age of the game at the same time. So yeah, it starts to come down to like, okay, is this even worth doing anymore?
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
and I don't know. I don't think anybody has a clear answer. And World of Warcraft didn't either.
Yeah.
They were doing things that they thought were best, and then they're like, "That we jacked up.
Yeah.
We're gonna go,
Yeah.
kind of narrow back in."
Yeah, totally. Totally. You know, PlanetSide is probably, like, my favorite game to stream. I don't know, there's something about it, like, you can be in the moment, but also kind of detune a little bit so you can pay attention to chat, have a conversation, bullshit a little bit. Also, I just like the game. But, I think that one of the things that tends to come up when I stream it is people will have little fun, like, little design what ifs. Like, what could PlanetSide do to get more people? Or how could we fix this problem? Or how could we do this? And I hear this all the time when I'm streaming PlanetSide, and it's usually from people I know who show up on most of those streams and just want to hang out and have a level discussion about the game without raging at all. And the thing I've arrived to, I remember the last time I made a piece of content where I was like, I think PlanetSide should do this, and it was where I was kind of proposing the idea of a smaller scale, a narrowed down PlanetSide 2 product. Like the idea, like PlanetSide 1 had continents like post shattering Osher with special rules. Like you couldn't use heavy assault weapons on it. PlanetSide 2, maybe you have special continent, a small one with a special rule set or win condition with equipment restrictions. You kind of use all the PlanetSide toys to set up a set piece interaction that's different from normal alert PlanetSide. That was my last idea. And since then, what I've come to is kind of similar to what you're talking about, which is like PlanetSide 2 like rolled the dice in like 2011 and 2012, and it's always going to be a first person shooter where you're stuck playing with a thousand other people, whether you like it or not. And every single one of those people has the opportunity to affect the way your session goes, for better or for worse. And um that's a niche game, I think.
Right.
I think that is just like a very particular flavor. Um, and it's a very particular flavor that still requires a massive number of people. Again, it goes back to what we were saying earlier, how it's just like a tough thing to do. And for PlanetSide to change in some way, for to change any of those things that seem like they've been set in hindsight to me since launch, um, I don't know. It takes a miracle for a game to change that much,
Yeah.
and you've certainly tried.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, at the same time, I feel like would would the game still be around if it was just like if you're iterating on the base experience and not
Uh-huh.
going those ambitious directions? I don't know. I don't have that sort of crystal ball. But at the same
What's your
time, I
sense?
do know
Uh-huh.
a large hand wavy update where things change. It's something that brings players back. You always see the spike. It is something that you can, as a team, work toward and then release. Now, if that release flops, it could be due to a number of things. It could be bad timing, it could be bad marketing, it could be a bad update.
Mhm.
But as long as you have like a goal in mind, at least you can try.
Mhm.
But if you're just trying to maintain status quo, that's just a slow downwards trajectory.
Right.
Very, very, very few games have have an upswing. Um, and I'm thinking like because of streamer based infusions, like Among Us is a good example. I think Rainbow
Yeah.
Six Siege is probably a good example too. Um, but in general, those are like that's a miracle situation.
Yeah.
Games actually, a really good example of a game that has been doing a lot better would be the latest Battlefield. So
Oh, well,
2042.
what's going on with that?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't checked in a bit, but they've kind of been reversing trajectory.
Hmm.
It's and I think that a lot of it is, the things that they change are they're hand wavy. Like when you say that a new map is kind of totally restructured, then you show very visual screenshots of like, hey, this place that you didn't like, this is what it looks like now, and
Mhm,
these are the
mhm,
the new weapons. We're dealing with specialists, addressing that big form of the big pain point within the community. It I think that you can. It seems like a recovery that seems legitimate. I don't know if it's sustainable long term. That might just end up in the same sort of situation
mhm.
that a more mature game is already going through.
Sure.
Um,
Yeah, I'm looking at
yeah,
the numbers on Steam for Battlefield 2042. It cratered down to just under 2,000 average players in May of last year, and it's crawled back up to, the last few months around 8,000 average,
hmm,
and it's been steadily climbing with a few peaks. That's exactly what you say. That's climbing back up from out of a hole. The
right.
other game that I've watched do that has been New World. Let's see how they're doing. New World. Oh man, maybe I'm wrong. So they had a big release last November.
There's
Brimstone
the
Sands.
desert one.
Yeah, the desert
Hmm.
map. Um, yeah. So average players 400,000 on launch. Nice. Um, gets down to 13,000 by July. That's 9 months later, and then in November when Brimstone comes out, up to 67,000. And then within 3 months, it's back down to under 20, and it's been falling since.
Hmm.
Um, New World's a pretty cool game. It's very have you played it? I don't know if you've
I
talked
have.
about it.
Yeah.
It's very, like,
Um,
raw feeling, isn't it? Like, in a
I,
cool way.
I feel like they get a lot of things right, which so even like the harvesting of minerals is like
Oh,
more entertaining than some of the other stuff. It's yeah, and I think the combat feels good. The movements of the characters and the different
mhm,
abilities that you have, all that feels really good. The game is it's very visually impressive, and yeah, I don't even think that's the story is that bad. Uh, the so it's interesting to me to see that it's kind of that it's not more uh, I guess widely played.
yeah,
And I think if anything, it speaks to just how difficult it is to create a game like that. Like they had a really good timing on that game too.
yes,
There wasn't an MMO anywhere near them outside of
mhm,
like World of Warcraft and some Korean based stuff. It was it was really slim pickings for
mhm,
MMOs for a very long period of time, and yet it's kind of just sustaining. Going through the normal like MMO cycle or normal I
mhm,
guess game cycle.
mhm.
I don't know. This industry is just I think it's a very hard thing to win at.
Games as a service.
Yeah.
Yeah. I, um I think, when I think about that problem, World of Warcraft, which you talked about earlier, jumps to mind because, like, that's a you gave an example of them, like, um, making a shaving down decision in order to appeal to a broader group, and then ending up sort of reversing that decision and going back like, "Okay, no, we actually know who wants to play our game, and they like this. And yes, it's less clear and it's more muddy and it's more complicated, but that's what they like. So we're gonna give them what they like. Um, World of Warcraft, when I when I play it, I spent a few weeks playing Dragonflight, the latest expansion. Uh, the sense I get of it is that they know so well who plays their game that I get a really easy visceral sense of whether or not I belong there. Like there are these very well defined, high resolution like paths you can go down within the game, and it's like you can grind a bunch of old content for transmogs if you care about the fashion side of things. You can technically go do a bunch of outdated questing if you really love the questing experience. But when people aren't getting levels out of it, they usually don't care. But other than that, it's the rating, it's the PvP, and it's what am I missing? Dungeons, mythic dungeons. And the reason I stopped playing it is because I realized I wasn't any of those things really. Uh, Even though it's a fantastic fucking game and I enjoyed my time with it. And New World has the opposite problem, I think, where it's still trying to figure out what they are, what they will be to the people who will sustain their game. Which maybe it's kind of natural being only like what, a year or two post launch. I wonder like if anything I'm saying makes sense, and please correct me if it doesn't. I wonder if we can reflect it all on Planetside 2 and its search for the people who want to play Planetside and will sustain it. How has it done in finding those people, in your opinion?
I wish I had a good answer for you because I feel like the players that at least the ones that are most vocal, which isn't necessarily the ones who are constantly playing.
Hmm.
I feel like catering to that particular audience might be nowadays closer to who's left playing the game, but also, and this is going to sound awful, is probably it's probably the same group of players that are pushing away the other folks. I
What
think
other
that
folks?
Planetside the so I stopped playing World of Warcraft when I lost a sense of wonder. It was it was just formulaic at that point. Nothing was
Hmm.
super interesting. Like everything
Hmm.
was like, yeah, you can go get this currency over here. You can go,
Which
do
escalator do
that.
you want to hop on? Yeah.
Exactly. And I feel like for Planetside 2, the the fact that there is so much diversity within the game, be it vehicle gameplay, construction, infantry, squad-based gameplay, outfit-based gameplay, or more niche things like this one specific vehicle or this one specific weapon on this one specific infantry class. That's how you sustain wonder. You get, I should say, the breadth of content is what allows someone to constantly be looking and find easily something new to
Hmm.
enjoy.
Hmm.
If it's the same thing over and over, players eventually going to leave because there's other games out there.
Yeah.
Unless you need something to constantly drive you. For some of the competitive players, it's like becoming better at the shooting or better at the specific weapons that they're using or being able to run a scrim format really well.
Yep.
But for but that is those are very I think that those are personal goals and they shouldn't be misconstrued with the goals of the average player.
Mm.
The average player just want to have fun and do crazy stuff.
They want to have an experience.
Yeah.
Right.
So I think that the ambition of pushing out all these different kinds of updates and these different kinds of content despite it being a very difficult challenge to appease everyone,
Hmm.
I think that that is ultimately how you continue to grow the game. And I think that the drawback of that is that those updates also need to be super solid. And I don't know that we've hit that a lot of times. Um, things do quite often feel very rushed, or like they'll be missing,
Yeah.
something that like,
Yeah.
could be good, but you can't live off of, it could be good, you know?
Hmm. Hmm.
So I think that it was perhaps the right path to go down, and then the we weren't quite executing on it the way that it needed to be executed on in order to really propel the growth. But again, I don't have a crystal ball. That's just a theory.
Hmm.
Uh,
Wonder, though.
yeah,
Wonder. I like that. When I think about wonder in video games, the experience that I go back to is vanilla World of Warcraft, because that game is so huge and weird. Um, there are things around so many corners that are just like, what? I just found this random mound behind a thing and it has a trinket that does what? And you're always having those kinds of experiences. You never know what a quest is going to reward you with. I mean, I guess it tells you, but like when you go into an area, you don't necessarily know if a quest is going to send you across the continent or across town. The formula for what to expect is unpredictable. And yeah, that causes some variance and some shitty experiences. But I think within the tension of uh, the unexpected delight and the negative noise, that tension is where the wonder lives, because you don't know what you're going to get, and you can't confidently boil down what you're doing into a formula. Part of the reason I also think about that when it comes to wonder is because I had the experience of playing that both on original launch back in 2005, I guess it was, when I was in college, and the relaunch in 2019. And I got to see how a game that is built to be massive and to overwhelm a person or group's ability to completely understand it and boil it down. Okay, if I can say that. I watched how the power of communication and the modern tools we have in 2019 completely dominated the problem of boiling down that game into the best way to play, the right thing to do. You see streamers with these add-ons that tell them what to do, which direction to turn, where to walk, who to attack, when to wait for a respawn. It takes all the decision making out of the game. It's whatever the opposite of wonder is, that is it. And it's not a surprise that anybody would want to eliminate variance. Like that's sort of like a natural competitive urge. The more variance there is, the less you're in control. And the more you're in control, the more likely you are to succeed. The more you care about succeeding, especially when there's a limited pool of people who can succeed, or it's a competition in some way. It's natural that the desire to reduce variance comes out. But I really appreciate that quality. I think a game has to be weird in order to retain that sense. And like if I challenge myself to think of Planetside, where it's weird, I guess I come up with like the boat. The boat is weird. I really like the boat. I certainly can't use it all the time, even when I'm on Osher. But God, I just love yeeting myself out of those stupid cannons.
yeah,
And I think about like the new the meatball gun, the Helios.
right.
Um like I don't love it, but it's weird. And when you see it, it's like, oh. Um and yeah, complaints about explosions. I'm also one of the people that can complain about explosions, so I get it. But
I think it's pretty dope.
yeah,
I like
say
that weapon.
more.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean that's. I don't know. It's. it was definitely overtuned there at the start. Hopefully, it's better now. I don't know.
I think it's good when things are
Made some
overtuned when
changes
they
to it.
first come out. Everyone gets to enjoy it.
I yeah. Uh,
No?
I mean, I it's funny. I think that we've been back and forth over this, like the pendulum. We've definitely started with stuff that was like undertuned and it worked up. People
Yeah.
complain about it being undertuned and then go the other
Yeah, yeah.
direction. But I think even when it comes to the top three examples I could think of with something being overtuned and needing to be reeled in would be the Canis at launch because the unstable ammunition was very good.
Mhm.
Um, the crossbows
Bigger headshot
fragmentation rounds,
hitboxes turn out to be good.
right? Yeah, yeah. Well, when you have the same, so lowering the headshot multiplier, I think, is a really good trade off. And
Mhm.
now it's just like yeah, sometimes you want to use it, sometimes you don't, and that's the
Mhm.
place that you want to be, right? Took a little bit to find that, but we're
I like
good.
the carbine version of that gun. What's it called?
The Horizon,
Yeah, it's fun. Drifters.
yeah, that's a lot of fun. Um, and then the fragmentation rounds on the crossbow were very silly,
I didn't get to
very very
play
very
during
silly.
that. I heard so many complaints though.
Yeah, but you know what? I wonder how many of those, what like the I think maybe 2 weeks of Canis, maybe 1 week of crossbow. I wonder how many people that actually turned off. It's probably more likely to go the other direction, where it's just like, yeah, this is stupid. I
Yeah.
want to use it before it gets nerfed.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that tends to be the reaction more than the opposite.
So here, let me. This is like a very typical gamer reaction in those situations. Is, oh, of course, the new thing that they're going to charge you money for to buy a custom skin for. Of course, that's overpowered. That's good for them and their bottom line. It's cynical business. Does that kind of shit
Right.
ever really happen?
I think that it probably does, but it didn't on our team.
Okay.
Well, I would say that there are some things that we know do well. So, for example, the fact that there was an AV knife in the seventh anniversary bundle, and then you couldn't achieve it in many other ways, except
Mhm.
outside of like limited time stuff.
Mhm.
Like that bundle it does very well,
Mm.
continues to do very well,
A very
and
unique
it's
item.
very right. And it's probably in part because of that. There's actually the bundle's great in general. Like there's so much stuff in there, and
All the
it's
yearly
all very good.
bundles are high value.
That yeah, the 10th
Buy
anniversary one we
Planetside
could
2 bundles today. Sorry, go on.
yeah. Uh, but I mean, yeah. So some of that stuff probably happens. I think what I just gave an example of is a small example where like we could just kind of let that ride for a little bit. Um,
All right.
but in general, like no, stuff like being way overtuned is not to make money. It's more likely that there was an oversight or that like something needed to change, but we didn't have enough time to change it before the update was
Mhm.
planned to roll out. Like that
Mhm.
sort of stuff tends to happen.
Mhm.
But yeah, whatever, man. When that stuff happens, I just think that it's a good time. But maybe I don't know. I think the numbers speak to it being the case too. I don't think that we lose more players than we gain. I think it engages players. I think it's annoying, yeah, and you can't let it go on for too long. But at the same time, it's almost like an event.
Yes, that's exactly what I was gonna say. Like, it feels like an emergent event, like something that is mistakenly overtuned. Like, um, I think I might have brought up this example in a previous conversation of ours. It's kind of haunting the back of my brain. But Destiny 2 had an overbuffed exotic called Lord of Wolves for a little while. In PvP, it was just completely abusive, and for whatever reason, they couldn't patch it quickly. I don't know why they couldn't, but instead of fixing it immediately, they said to everyone, "Enjoy the shotgun, folks, and here's a banner to everyone who plays PvP before we fix this."
Oh,
And
it's dope.
yeah, yeah, it's everyone's got a cool. I actually use it on my character. I think it's really cool looking, but also because it's kind of special. Like it's a moment in time, and the community all got to play around with something in a special way that you can't do anymore. I think it's cool.
That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
You were talking about when you're speaking of wonder.
Yeah.
The thing that came to my mind was as far as Planetside 2 is a game, how many times do you play and then something silly happens and it just makes you laugh?
A lot.
Like, yeah, how often does that happen in other games? Like, if I'm just like charging up a hill and then there's a harasser that comes and gives me a haircut and knocks me over, like, or if there's an aircraft that lands on me. I think there's a lot of vehicle related smishing that makes me laugh a lot, but there's other
It's
stuff
always
too.
funny. Mhm.
It's, uh, that sort of thing, it helps uh, break up the the formula,
Mhm.
and just in laughing, also very healthy.
Mhm.
So I think that that's one of those things that is probably difficult to quantify, but also makes Planetside 2 the game that it is.
Yeah, I like that. I think the tension between the fact that you can get good at PlanetSide or parts of it, you can master its equipment, you can have better reflexes, better positioning, make better friends. I think the tension between that and the wonder, the weirdness, the unexpected laughs, I think that's part of what makes PlanetSide to me. Because honestly, if both those things weren't there, I think I wouldn't find it that interesting. The fact that I can log in and get better at something, like, I kinda need that. Like, I wanna feel like I'm, getting something done. I'm having an impact, at least on myself. But also, I don't want it to be such a drudge, such a grind. Um, God. I had I'm recording a few, podcasts, over the last few days. I just talked to Lex a few days ago, so he's in the back of my mind. And, Lex, um, hard charging infantry dude, and, one of your biggest fans. And, I'm always really interested to hear what the folks who are incredibly passionate about the ability to win at the game, which we can say is composed by skill and managing unpredictable outcomes, and how they look at things like what we're talking about, like the wonder. I think if I talked to Lex about wonder, he would just say, "Give me a fucking break," and that's okay, by the way. But if but the but in Planetside, those players share the same world with dudes who enjoy getting harasser haircuts, and people like me, where I'm just, I don't know. I think what I've realized, the main thing I get out of it is I just like a sense of dialogue, and that can be that can be yell chat. It could be talking to people on the stream. It could be rage tells, um, or just going back and forth with someone a few times. The sense of, what do you have? Here's what I've got. I'm rambling a little right now. Would you put me out of my misery?
I think that there's part of Planetside 2's unaddressed formula is that it's very difficult to tell a player how they should be playing or what the expectations are for the person who is playing. So yes, you can like there's a lot of ways to get better at the game, and you can be a very competitive player in this game. However, it's not really meant to be competitive. So the players who take that mentality into this one are it feels a little bit like they're in the wrong place, but at the same time, the gameplay is also fun. Like, it's a fun sci-fi first-person shooter game,
Yeah,
and I also wonder if those players would have more fun in a game like Planetside Arena, that had a very similar feel, but was geared more toward that specific
yeah,
side of things.
yeah.
There was another point that I was gonna talk on, but man, I just can't remember.
So yeah,
Put me out of my misery.
um, I'll see what I can do. So, yeah, I guess so. The question is, why do why does somebody who is always focused on the competitive component and the ability to master and interaction in a way that is sort of promotes skill development, right, over other phenomena. Why are those people attracted to Planetside, or is it just sort of inevitable? In any game, is that just going to happen? It doesn't matter what you put out, and those people are going to be there.
Yeah, so when I started playing Overwatch again a couple
Okay.
days ago.
Okay. Overwatch 2, is that out yet?
Overwatch 2. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And I only play Overwatch competitively. Like when I play, that's what I'm there for. I want to ascend the ladder. I
So you're in
want
voice
to
chat.
be actually I haven't been in voice chat. I'm not going to be in voice chat until Diamond.
You
Um,
All right.
yeah, it's not necessary. It's just a grind right
I'll
now.
take your word
Um,
for it. I haven't played a ranked ladder in years. Go ahead.
yeah, but in general, yeah, when coordination matters more. Right now, it's just I think when you're in like gold, and then maybe a little bit into platinum, a lot of it comes down to personal skill. So and
You
that
can
can kind
carry
of
a little
carry a
bit.
team. Yeah,
Yeah.
so I'm not super concerned about it.
Cool.
Um, but uh, but in general, like that's what I'm there for. Is I
Mhm.
want to play that game. It is a very specific mode that says competitive. I click on it. I know what I'm getting into, and I wanted to prove that I'm better than the other players, and I want to ascend that ladder, and I want to see the little shiny thing next to my name. And Planetside 2 doesn't have that. You're mostly seal clubbing if you're a good player, because the vast majority of players they're not a good player. They're
Yeah.
an average player.
Yeah.
So I that's something that's always kind of frustrated me too about the sort of the competitive mentality. And then when you approach competitive players about this particular detail, it's like, no, I want to fight other competitive players. Like, okay, you could also do that on Jaeger. Or I mean, you could do it
That's not
in
really
here.
in
That's
Planetside.
totally fine, right?
It's
You're
not
just
really a
not
part
you're
of
not
Planetside.
finding you're
Yeah.
not going to find the majority of what it seems like you're telling me that you want.
Okay.
Um, so it always kind of like
Is that
you're
Planetside's
frustrated
fault
as
for not making that clear?
I think it might be.
Hmm.
I think it's probably like the game that's trying to be too many things to too many people.
Hmm.
Those are the sort of discrepancies that you kind of are left with.
Sure.
But at the same time, those are also a lot of the vocal players, uh, or the players that are vocal about the kinds of things that they don't want in the game, and that's one of the reasons why it's just really difficult to navigate this sort of dynamic that this game has constructed, because you do have people like Lex, regardless. They're going to be here. They enjoy the
Yeah.
game
Yeah.
in the weird love hate way that they enjoy the game. Um, and at the same time, it's like those can't be the only players that you're catering to.
Sure.
So you're living in this weird state of half misery, I guess.
Have you ever like when you were um by the time you got to the point where you were making some decisions about what to do and what to make, which I guess in some smaller ways was true from right when you joined the team. But anyway, um, it sounds like you've really gotten to a point. You got to a point where you have a lot of sophistication and or you aim for a lot of sophistication and trying to sort through the different voices, different feedbacks, understanding the dynamics, who this is going to affect. Um, and you have that sort of mapped out in terms of I make this change, it's going to make these players happy versus unhappy, whatever. Um, Despite getting to that, or despite arriving to that point while working on Planetside, were you ever tempted, or did you succumb to the temptation of just being like, "Fuck it, I'm making this for this kind of player, and everyone else has just got to deal with it." You ever had a moment like that?
I feel like a lot of the decisions that we make I mean, it's not that necessarily. Like I think you're wanting to make the okay, so you're figuring out who you want to up or cater an update to.
Right.
So like construction, just as an example, has a very specific audience. Actually, escalation had a very specific audience, being like
Hmm.
outfit members and just coordinated play and that sort of thing. Um,
Make
and
outfits
I
matter
think
again.
you're
Sorry, go on.
right. And your goal at that point is really to just do enough of the other stuff that people are like, oh, okay, I got a little something too.
Mm.
But for the most part, so like you're pushing,
Tip of the
I
cap.
guess, lackluster. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think you're pushing lackluster elements in the game like into their own updates, but you also have to serve the whole at the same time. So that's a difficult tightrope to walk to, and also something that you can't get right
Mhm.
a lot of times. But
Mhm.
yeah, I feel like in general we did a pretty reasonable job
Mhm.
uh, at that, but we did approach that consciously.
Mhm. How brave of a thing was it to attempt Outfit Wars?
Man, that was it is a long or like a large time commitment to pull that off, knowing that we were catering to a very small portion of the player base, which is, I think, maybe even unfortunately, part of why we were trying to get more outfits involved. So like Outfit Wars has been through like what 4 iterations so far, or something like
Yeah.
that. And originally it started out uh, taking the uh, what you were able to accomplish on the main map, sandbox,
Mhm.
and then being rewarded for that, so that you can get filtered into these matchups
Right.
and prove which outfit is the greater.
Mhm.
That has had its own problems. There was some future iterations that had their own problems, and I think now we're at the point where it's really distilled to just
Mhm.
like, okay, listen, doesn't matter what faction
It's
you're on,
this.
doesn't matter what outfit. Yeah, it's just do the 1v1. So it's very difficult to throw games.
Mhm.
Now you could fight your own faction, which is I think super important. We just didn't
I
have the
love
tech
that.
for it.
I love
I
that.
love it too. Yeah, it's but Outfit Wars wouldn't have been a thing unless we were able to incrementally build on it. So at the same time, I really wish this was a feature like 6 years ago. But what can
Yeah,
you
I
do?
do. Yeah.
Yeah. So as far as Brave, I I really wish we got more bang for our buck. I think it was more uh, ambition, and then the results weren't there. And interestingly enough, I spoke about like not being able to iterate on things, and Outfit Wars was like one of those things that we did iterate on
Mhm.
to a significant degree, a number of times, and still didn't get the payout
Mm.
that I
Mm.
think we're looking at. I think you're challenged by burnout within the community for people who are organizing for those sorts of events. So it's just a difficult system to
Yes.
accomplish.
Yes. Yeah, it's almost like you're playing around with a spreadsheet and you've got all these cells that interact in different ways. You make changes to a few of them and you look at the result and it's like, "Oh my god. People are going to play this for 12 hours a day for 2 months?" No, 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 that can't be right. But that's like I'm exaggerating a little bit. But I loved interviewing when I was doing the broadcasts for the Nexus season. I loved interviewing the outfits afterwards and just hearing what they thought. Um, Everyone was exhausted. Everyone. Um, and I can't believe that Recursion played in two different server brackets at the level they did. That was crazy. But yeah, I was thinking about the developmental bravery of doing this, of doing something so hard and new and narrow. Um, and you answered that question, but then raising the community dimension of it. Do you think we'll see an Outfit Wars 5 prediction?
I
You don't have to answer
can't
that if you don't want to.
speak one way or another. Yeah.
Fair enough. Fair enough. You know, I should talk to you in like a year or two when you don't know shit about what's going on, so I can get some more fun predictions out of you.
Oh, then I could just be an armchair developer and say what's wrong with the game and why they're
Yeah,
doing everything incorrectly.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, can't wait to do that again.
Get back to thoughts on better gaming and weapons reviews.
Right. Yeah.
Will the Rel YouTube channel ever make a resurgence, man?
Yeah, very likely. I mean,
Nice.
I'm working on my own stuff, and I I think some of that is probably going to be talking. I mean, so it's not going to be a Planetside 2 channel anymore. Like, I don't.
Yeah, done that.
Why?
Yeah.
But at the same time, there is, for some reason, still 70,000 people
Mhm.
subscribed to the channel. So now I'm
Mhm.
going to see if I can just shed a lot of that by doing content that's totally different.
You make not planet-sized
Um,
stuff, you'll lose them. Lose a lot, that's for
I
sure.
sure hope so. I really just want the people to stick around who want to stick around. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm definitely looking to do some like thoughts on better gaming when I feel like it, if I feel inspired
Mhm.
to do that. I don't want to put any of this on myself as like a have to, which
Mhm.
is as a content creator prior to joining Daybreak, it was definitely getting to a point where like I was getting burnt out from that,
Sure.
just making videos. And Kamikaze will occasionally speak on this either on his streams or whatnot, where he's just trying to get footage for video, and it's just
Mhm.
not manifesting because you end
Mhm.
up in the wrong situations or just not being able to,
Yeah.
So
Or too burned
the
out and
game
tired and
becomes
distracted, and you can't
yeah,
actually get it.
right. I mean, and the game becomes less fun when you're doing that too. So I
Mhm.
really can't blame the guy. It's difficult, and also I hope he's finding a lot of success with BattleBit. The game seems like
Yeah! Oh,
off its
man.
off its rockers right now.
I don't give a shit about BattleBit. I'm not into it, but I'm so happy that Kami got ahead of that and is seeing some success. That puts a real shine on my heart.
That's awesome. Uh, Lone Hawk was somebody who did something similar, where they started in the Planetside 2 community, and
Mhm.
then they started doing Overwatch stuff and became super
Mm.
popular because it's got a broader audience.
Yes.
But they learned their foundation, just like here. Morphologist did the same thing, and he's doing like Star Citizen stuff now. And
Cool.
yeah, it's really, man. I love that sort of stuff where you
Yeah.
have there's like something that creates an impact,
Mhm.
and it goes on to follow people, and they go on to do greater things. And you see that even in like the player studio program, where
Mhm.
Fuzzbucket would like create stuff and eventually got a job in the industry,
Mhm.
making art. Yeah, I love that stuff. It's so cool.
Seeing people that you knew a time ago on their path and doing the next great
Yeah,
thing.
it's really cool to watch people succeed.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so too, brother. Yeah. Man. So, present day. You're not making Planetside. Still finding a way to talk about it though. Funny enough.
I gotta stop.
I wonder if that'll ever happen. At least not while I'm around. Other than other than your projects, your game dev projects, like what's your life like, man?
Uh,
Like is it
move.
very different? Like or is it more or
No,
less go ahead.
I would say it's. Uh, I mean, fortunately, working in tech, I never had to set an alarm clock anymore. Just wake up when I want to wake up, and then
Yeah.
start working. And it's the same thing here.
Mhm.
So I'm just waking up and try. I think the difficulty though is staying motivated to do my own stuff, staying on task to do my own stuff.
Ah,
It is very, very, very difficult to, uh, despite enjoying it, it's still work. There's a
yep.
reason that a lot of a lot of people want to create games, and then very few go on to actually release one.
Mhm.
It's very easy to dabble,
Mhm.
and do prototypes and that sort of thing, because the willpower comes in when you're like doing the stuff that you don't want to do.
Mhm. Yeah.
So yeah, that's that's where I'm at.
Interesting. Yeah, I think the extent to which I can relate to that is the 7 months that I spent unemployed, just ending a month ago. Talked about that right at the start. Uh, where I had that experience for the first time in years where I was like, I got this day to myself to decide what to do. And what am I going to do with it? Um, I think depending on the kind of person you are, it can be really, really interesting balance. Like, so you are a very motivated person. And if I had to guess, for you, the trick is to plan downtime, to plan time away from your passion projects. Is that fair to say?
I would have agreed with that, like, probably a few years ago.
Mm.
I think that at this point, I struggle a lot more to maintain the balance that I would like to maintain. And, I think, honestly, I think a lot of it started around the COVID time period
Mm.
where, because so just as an example, uh, prior to the pandemic, I would go into work, after work, go to the gym, go home, and
Boom,
that's
boom, boom.
like boom, boom, boom. Now, because there's like, even working from home, it's just like if you feel any sort of resistance, I'm just going to get up and make a sandwich, or just get
Yeah.
up and walk away, and that sort of thing. And it takes willpower to just sit in the chair, opposed to when you go to a place, office, gym,
Yeah.
whatever,
Yeah.
you were there to do one specific thing.
Yeah.
And that is something that I've struggled with a lot uh, in this sort of work from home era.
Sure. Yeah. Interesting. Interesting. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think I love that. I think I love that. I don't know if it's my ADHD or what, but if I'm not working on like 2 or 3 different things in a day, I get really bored and frustrated.
Mm.
Like, people who can be like, "I am gonna get this done today," and that's like, and they just do it the whole day. I watch my wife do stuff like that. Like, she'll get really motivated to do something, like, "Let's organize the storage unit," and it's just 12 hours today, that's what I'm doing. And it's not gonna get worked on tomorrow or the next day or the next day. This is the day for it. For me, I'm like, I'll do like 90 minutes today, and then another again in a week, and then again in a week, because I was thinking about the coming here and there, the moving around, um, suits me. So I
I
liked
Yeah.
working from home, but I definitely have had to work on staying goal directed. That was more of my challenge, of being like, I'm not actually getting anything done. All I'm doing is satisfying myself, making myself entertained or whatever.
Yeah, that's where I'm at too, honestly. Um, so in order to make a game, like I know that I need to just like just keep hammering on it, every
Yeah.
day, and especially since there's a time limit. Like I may end up just back in the industry, with another game development team. That'd be totally fine.
Yep.
It's not well. I say it's totally fine, but it's not what I want to do. But it may be where I end up.
Sure.
So I am. It's a race against the clock right now for me to try to build and make something that feels worthwhile, so that I can, uh, hopefully before I run out of money. Like that's the goal.
You're doing
Uh,
the indie dev thing for a little while,
I'm very much doing the indie dev thing at
trying
the
to make a
moment.
go of it, trying to make an idea. The thing that I've heard about indie devs is that the early stages are fun and easy, but actually turning an idea into a game people can play is incredibly difficult. Not for the faint of heart.
That's Yeah, I think that's where the difficulty is for me, because it's fun to learn. It's
Uh-huh.
real Okay. I spent Don't tell anybody this. I spent 12 hours working on a door, making door open and close the way that I wanted it to. 12 hours. Ridiculous. Also, it shouldn't have been 12 hours. I spent the first few hours trying to like figure out like why I couldn't use the dot product and why I was doing things wrong. And if I was an engineer, if I was a programmer, some of the stuff would have been like immediately obvious to me.
Mhm.
But I was just like figuring it out, and there's like no tutorials online to do it the way that I want to do it.
Uh-huh.
So it's not even a difficult thing to do. It's just
Mhm.
like there's things that you need to know.
Mhm.
So anyway, that
As
was
someone whose background is in Planetside dev, I understand why doors would be confusing.
right. uh, yeah, man, no, we'll get doors in the game someday. um, yeah, but so stuff like that, just like the learning, and yeah, again, it was 12 hours and it was like start to finish. So that was my whole day.
Mhm.
There's probably other things that could have been, more, I guess, that I could have used my time on.
Mhm.
And those are the sorts of challenges that I think that I'm facing
Mm.
now, is just like, yeah, so just so you know, um, I am I'm building a survival game.
Okay, I was gonna ask. Yeah, go
It's
on.
it's very much inspired by some of the really cool things that Valheim has done, because I view that as an
Mm.
evolution of the genre.
Mhm.
Um, and also it's something that I really enjoy playing,
Mm.
and seeing all the stuff that they did and also the stuff that they didn't do.
Hmm.
It to me is intriguing from just like a game development side. For
Mhm.
example, uh, so if you okay, Valheim talk. If
Yes.
you use you press tab, or whatever it is, to open up the character window, and then you
Yeah.
create an item, right? It creates like the bar fills up, and you're like walking and you're doing stuff until it's done.
Mhm.
Did you know that? Okay, so let me tell you one thing that I did. So I have that same sort of system, just as a basis, just to make sure that I can do it. Uh, I press tab, open, starts constructing the thing, consumes the resources, tells me whether or not I have resources, only shows me things that I've learned as far as recipes.
Mm.
And then I can close that, I press tab to close that window. And then I can also press tab to open that window up again. And it'll still be at the same progress bar. And it's just like the stuff is being built inside the menu. When you build something in Valheim, okay, so I'm going back again. Let me clarify. So the timer's ticking up. It took me a little bit to figure out how to like properly maintain that data and then show it again
Yeah.
when you open the window and it's like in the proper progress and that
Yeah,
sort of
like
thing, and it's
cache it or
in your
whatever.
inventory.
Yeah.
Yeah, uh, when you create an item in Valheim, you you just sit there. You can't close that menu until it is done. You cannot press escape and exit the game until that thing is done building, and it's
It
only a
hard
few
locks you.
seconds.
Yeah.
It hard locks you. I never noticed that until
I didn't know
I
that.
right. Yeah, because it doesn't matter. Like you're not doing that normal play. So
Mhm.
I'm coming across things that I'm like, I should really be able to like do this sort of thing. Like, okay, how did Valheim do it? And then I looked at Valheim and was like, Valheim do it. They just like totally skipped over it. They saved like hours
We
of
don't need to
dev
do that.
time. It's just like exactly, because you don't
Mm.
notice it. So the
Mm.
stuff that they didn't do is
Mhm.
intriguing. It is as intriguing to me as the stuff that they did do.
Interesting. Yeah,
Yeah.
because those being able to make those choices and focus on, let's say, the right things seems to be something you'd wanna try to do.
Right. How many times, man, the amount of times that I've told myself like I really need to just I need to do this, this, and this so that I can like get the core loop set up. Like it doesn't need to look good. Stop it. Knock it off.
Ah,
And I'm just like tinkering, and then I go back and like refactor stuff, and so those are this like weird sorts of
yep,
also fun but time wasting challenges that
yeah.
you deal with. Like right now, I have a building system in the game. I have an inventory system in the game. I have
Mhm.
a really crappy combat system in the game. Um, I have the day-night cycle system in the game. I have the sleeping, like, so I have a lot of the pieces,
Yep.
but at the same time, none of it feels coherent because there's not everything is like prototype, but not like enough.
Mhm.
And I don't know. There's just so much like missing, and
Mhm.
and because I've bounced around so much, I find it difficult to figure out what I actually want to work on.
Sure.
So it is definitely it's become an interesting challenge to me
Yeah.
where I don't know,
Do you
but I don't know,
do
it's
you
fun.
keep it all in your head, or do you use some kind of project tracking?
So I like tracked a little bit on Trello, but I really wasn't paying attention to it. Like I do this with calendars too, where
Yeah.
I'll
Yeah.
put a bunch of stuff in a calendar and then never look at it again. It's like, what's the
Yep.
point?
Mm.
Um, so a lot of it actually, the best way for me to remember stuff is to write it in a notebook with pen and paper.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
there's like a lot of ideas that are just chilling in notebooks, and
Mhm.
I have so many notebooks from just like years of doing this sort of thing,
Sure.
where when I look back at it, I'm like, man, I was so creative back then, and then and nowadays it's like I don't know, I found like the edges of the box, and this is like
Yeah,
these are the boundaries that I have to live in.
yeah,
Yeah, that's it's really interesting, dude.
yeah, yeah. It sounds like you are in the struggle of turning game dev into and more formalizing the the way you need to go about making a game.
Right,
Yeah, and the thing that I've heard about game dev and is that a game looks nothing like what it will become. Like just visually, it looks nothing like the video game until the very end because you have to build all the systems, you have to do all the tech before you can actually put on the aesthetics to make it look like the way it's going to look, even in a basic sense. So that must be a challenge to, like you said, things are not quite even in a prototype stage for a lot of the things, and for it to be like, I made this, is it any good? Oh, it doesn't feel like the game, and this doesn't look right. Let me go fix that, and then come back. Is that like what happens?
I think that it depends a lot on the game, actually.
Okay,
Uh, yeah, because if you have a team that is able to work on stuff, um, at the same time, then you could have some of the visuals completed, but at the same time the systems are
sure.
completed.
Hmm.
And also there's like when you're trying to pitch a game, uh, it can be a very difficult thing to do when it's just an idea and you don't have something that's
Yeah.
kind of there in visual.
Yep.
Um, so
Proof of
yeah, it
concept.
could definitely be right. It could definitely be a weird balance. Like I wouldn't want to show off anything that I'm doing
Hmm.
until it is visually appealing enough for people to get the idea. And
Right.
people getting the idea is something that doesn't happen from a gray box stage. You can say that this is what it's going to look like, and you can show them pretty pictures and that sort of thing, and
Hmm.
it's not going to strike.
Hmm.
And that's one thing that I've learned about or learned too is you can have artists who will post like work in progress stuff, and then people will comment like, "Oh, I think it should be this way, and I think it should be that way," and they just like totally don't get it until there's enough there.
Yeah.
It's probably something that frustrates a lot of artists, I'm sure.
Mm. The game doesn't quite represent my vision for the art because it's always a
Yeah.
compromise and things coming together. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, I think I caught so I was recently turned on to a YouTube channel of a guy named Tim Kaine. I don't know if you know who he is. He was one of the original minds behind the Fallout IP, like original Fallout. And just big, like a nerdy game dev who's been in the business for years and years and years. And he made a YouTube channel talking about a lot of game dev topics, telling some stories. One of the things that he shared about gray boxing, which it, kind of surprised me, was it didn't surprise me. I just had never thought about it before. Is the struggle of trying to do exactly what you said, which is to get somebody interested or to get the idea of what the game is when it's in a gray box state. And the thing that he said is that's what makes like a that's the value of like a professional QA person. A professional QA person can look at a gray box, get the idea, and interact with it in a way that's useful. But like, like a casual fan or like a even like a business side person within an org, uh, they're not going to be able to look at that and get a sense of it at all.
Yeah, I've seen that a lot of times as well.
Mm, mm. Well, I need a little bathroom break. Can we take three?
Okay. Yeah, no worries.
All right, man. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Much better. How's your physical health been
um,
since you left?
it's, I mean, I need to, man, I need to be working out.
As you said last time we
I,
talked.
yeah, I'll probably say it for the next however many years until I get some sort of condition that just ruins my life and I have to. I
Mm,
hope not. I hope I have more willpower than that.
it's
But
a
right now
grim
I don't.
prediction.
Yeah.
Sounds like you have a lot of
Okay.
willpower. It's just all going in one direction.
Uh, maybe. Yeah, I find it so difficult to focus nowadays. I uh, I wonder how much of it is, I don't know, just the need to accomplish the things that I need to accomplish, and then me burning myself out because
Mm.
I'll shame myself for not doing work.
Mhm.
Where yeah, because man, every because it matters. Like
Yeah,
I only have so much money and so much time, and
I
if
relate
things
heavily
don't,
to that.
yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah,
Yeah,
man. I while I was unemployed and had a little extra time, I challenged myself with this kind of funny question. This Greg, that's my name, Greg. Greg, what is your personal philosophy? What do you really think? And I started writing down little things in a book to be like, whenever that something would occur to me, oh yeah, this is like what I think. Um, and one of the my favorite little passages that I wrote is a way to think about time and how to use it, and how to think about what I choose to do. And it was the idea of giving the time that I'm given the justice it deserves, doing justice to the time, um, which is useful to me and meaningful to me. And it's a little open ended if you kind of pry into it. What does doing justice mean? Doing justice to myself? Well, it could mean doing justice to my relationships, doing justice to my uh, the dirty kitchen sink. It could be doing justice to my bored cat. It could mean sending out applications. It could mean working on my YouTube. It could mean so many different things. Um, but I think giving myself that verbal rubric kind of gave me permission to do things like go out and take walks that I know are going to make me feel physically better and think more clearly, and give me the permission to take better care of myself, to not burn the candle and to get a couple more hours of sleep. Um, I wish that for you,
thanks.
to find some peace, because you can't, as much as eager as the world is to see what you have to offer it, and it is, uh, can't do it as half a man.
I I need to spend more time sharpening the saw. You know, I can't sleep. I mean, it's just very difficult for me
Sleep
to
is
do
a
that,
real
and
thing. Like, if you can't
I've
sleep, that'll wreck
yeah,
your life. Go on, sorry.
I've had that issue for years and years and years,
What's it like for
but
you?
I I'm uncomfortable, all
Uh-huh.
the time. Like,
Kinda
I'll just roll
fidgety?
around like a
Yeah.
yeah, I'll just be, well, I mean, when I'm in the bed, it's like an alligator doing death rolls. It's
Yeah, I get
just
it. I get it.
um, yeah, and I mean, my lower back has just been going, and it's been gone for, like, at least 3 years.
Mm.
Just
Mm.
super jacked up. Um,
Too much time sitting
Probably
at a
longer than
desk
that.
or an injury or
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I think so. Just too much
yeah.
time sitting. And yeah, everything is just like slowly declining, and I
Mhm.
haven't taken enough measures to, to reverse direction.
Mhm.
And yeah, at the same time, it's very difficult, I think, to stop nowadays and say like, no, if you do this, this is actually going to be healthy for you.
Mhm.
So you taking walks or whatever, just taking that personal time.
Yeah.
I It's just I think that's something that I've always kind of struggled with
Mhm.
because like, why do that when you could be working?
Yeah.
Which is like a horrible, horrible thing. But like
Well, you
when
like
you're
to
working,
work.
it's
A lot of people like to
I
work.
do, yeah. I it's funny that like that's one of the reasons that I left is because I felt like I wasn't doing enough of the work that I wanted to do.
Mm.
You know, I really just want to
But you
create. So like when I
yeah.
go ahead.
I was just gonna clarify, but you already did. Please continue.
Mm. When I sit in front of my computer and I open up Unreal, there's at least the potential to like get something accomplished. Uh, and I think that that can sometimes be uh, a distraction from the actual like the thing that's actually going to make me healthier and happier. Because it doesn't have the immediate dividends
Yeah,
or immediate gratification.
of seeing something on the screen that you accomplished.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I relate to that. Again, relating back to my job search, um, one of the things that took me a long time to figure out is that I was using job applications as, like, a marker of progress. Like, I applied for X number of jobs today. As a result of that, I applied for a lot of jobs, a lot, almost 1,000 during the half year I was unemployed. And, it took me a while, but to realize that I was using that number as a distraction to give myself a sense of, "I did it," because that's what I needed. I needed to feel like I was, you know, getting a bite of the elephant. And when it comes to job searching, it's just like, where the hell are you until you get the offer? It's impossible. Uh, I don't really have any advice about how to get out of that. Um, I had to take my eye off the ball personally. I had to stop looking at the forecasts of how long my savings is going to last. I had to stop looking at counting applications. I had to completely stop all that kind of measuring and in order to regain a sense of where I was in the moment and what the actual most, let's use a very technical feeling term, the highest leverage way to spend my time was, which often was, and there were days where it's like, this is a fuck off day because that's what is actually going to pay off in the long term. I don't know. I have my own weird personal health journey that preceded this period of unemployment. I used to be a person who didn't understand people who are driven and like to work. I didn't understand that. I could never tap into that in my own life. Um, in the last year, I've developed an appreciation for it. But so I probably come at the problem from the opposite side of the spectrum than you do. Um, of someone who understands what it's like to give to myself. And um, but it was interesting that I found myself going too far into the land of, I like to work, I like to see progress, I like to make gains, and feeling that bite me and being like, "Oh, I need to come back to middle." That's how I relate to that.
Hmm. Yeah. I feel like I'll figure it out. There's a lot of change occurring at the moment. So that's the
Yeah.
excuse that I'm gonna like,
It's true, man.
keep in my back pocket for a little bit. Yeah, I don't like excuses, but I mean, yeah, it is when you weigh everything in the balance, like it's a good enough reason to to forgive yourself a little bit. So hopefully, I get my stuff in order here in short order, um, and I'm
So you
sure
can
I
get
will.
back to work.
So yeah, exactly.
Okay, man. Okay, man. I believe in you. I believe in you.
Thanks.
So, when should we expect to see the first demo or prototype of Rel's survival game?
That is a good question.
What
That
would your hope be?
my hope would be that the game is out at the end of the year.
Cool.
So probably not going to happen.
Yeah.
I think that is a very unrealistic timetable. However, I don't know. I would like to. I have some conflicting goals, but one would be to like dress things up so that it looks like it could actually be a game. Because right
Mhm.
now it's just a mess. It's a
To show
hot
it to
mess.
people. Yeah.
Right. yeah, it would be nice
Give people a
to,
window into what you're doing.
right, and also get them excited for what it could be without
Yeah,
looking so far off of the mark that that there's no interest there.
yeah.
So that's my goal at the moment. And though there's other stuff that I'm working on too. Uh, I will probably start dipping my toes back into YouTube just kind of whenever I want to. I would like to share the stuff that I'm learning in Unreal
Mm,
with those who could probably use it.
mhm,
There's definitely been situations where I'll look for a tutorial and they're just not doing
mm.
things the way that I think that I would like to do them. So, like the door thing, for example, like
You could save someone 12 hours.
exactly. Yes, I've invested my 12 hours, so you do not have to.
You know,
Um,
if you get really good at making videos about game dev, you don't need to finish making a game at all.
there you go. Yeah, so many people do that. Yeah, we'll see.
Mhm, mhm. Well, before you, got into doing the dev work, were you ever making a useful living off of YouTube and being a creator?
It's despite all the content and like I have more than what is like 600 videos or something close to that
Mhm,
on my channel. And I think that at the end I was making still not enough to live off of it.
mhm.
And the vast majority of that income was coming from Patreon subscribers. So
Yep.
people who just believed in what I was doing,
Mhm.
because they're not really getting anything out of it aside from like some shout outs at the end in a conversation every once in a while. So it's very difficult, I think, to make a living off of YouTube. And at
Sure.
this point, I don't know that I want to go for it. I think it would be more about just doing something that I enjoy and just like even getting to the point where I could like talk about
Mhm,
my game and just like the
mhm.
development of it. I think that'd be fun.
Yeah. Well, people love a
Yeah.
story, and,
Mm.
marketing your story will be very closely related to marketing your game, you know?
Yeah. Hopefully.
As actually, now that now that I've said that out loud, I'm imagining being you hearing me saying that and being like, "I would hate that. I don't want it to be about me." I bet you that's exactly what you think.
I no, you kidding me? I'm going to write a book. Uh, no. Um, yeah, I don't know. I just want to share cool stuff and make cool
Mhm.
stuff.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
So, you're just working on this by yourself right now?
Yeah. Um, yeah. And I've been doing the thing that people really shouldn't do, but somehow feel compelled to, where I'm just like making all the assets and like doing all the art and everything else. And like I don't really have skills in either one of these places, but
Mhm.
I'm doing it because I want it to be mine, and not like buy
Oh.
stuff on the store and like put it in the game.
Mhm.
Realistically, things would be so much easier if I did that.
Mhm.
So we'll see how long that lasts. I'm pretty sure. Like I'm doing like the animations for the all the stuff too, and it's just like, man, these look bad. Oh well, I guess I'll just waste more time trying to figure out how to do it. It's yeah, it's an interesting process, and
Uh-huh.
I argue with myself about how much value it actually has, learning and developing all these individual skill sets.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah,
we'll
I
see.
could see it being useful, you know, on a bigger team where it's you have a lot of people doing a lot of different things, and you need someone to be the glue. But then that gets you back to doing what you were trying to get away from when you left RPG, right? Is being in a
Maybe
glue role completely.
no. I think yes and no. I think I was the only person on the team who could take something from start to finish. So
Uh-huh.
like I could develop a weapon in Maya by like jamming pieces together or coming up with some atrocity like
Like the little helper.
um, yeah, that's all me, baby.
Let's go.
And yeah, so I can make the model and rig it using existing animations, and then I can texture it, and then I can do all the data in the design tool, and then I can do the data, and then I can actually market it via social and that sort of thing, and like
Yeah.
bundle it and promote it to the community. Like I can do all that start to finish. Even the
Mhm.
particle effects I taught myself how to do, and the audio I can take bits of other weapons and jam them together in a way
Okay. Make it
it
sound a little
sounds
different.
mostly new.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I was able to do all of that stuff, and even though they weren't areas of expertise, what that does is allow me to understand the challenges that everybody on the team has, and
Right.
act as the glue, like you said. But at the same time, there was a creative component to it. Like a
Mm.
lot of the implant icons in the game, I did those.
Mm.
Yeah, for better and for worse. And just actually a lot of the camos in the game, I did those. Like the most of the ones
Seriously?
that people, oh yeah, most of the ones that people use nowadays are ones that I have done because I just like knock that stuff out. And it
Like the
would
solid
it would
ones?
take, yeah, like this.
Are you
No,
responsible
I
for
mean
pink
like,
camo?
oh, no, no, no. That goes back before my time.
Okay.
Um, yeah, I'm responsible for, I would say, I mean, I've been doing camos ever since I've been on the team. So back
Yeah.
in 2016, maybe. Yeah, I think the gold hex camo, the one that comes out of, I think it's what, maybe the sixth
That's a
anniversary
cool
bundle
one.
or
It's
something
very
like that.
distinct looking.
Yeah, it's pretty dope, right? So that one caveat is I took an existing texture and then adjusted it,
Yeah.
and that was kind of the basis for it. But a lot of the ones that I've done just by hand, um, yeah. So like a lot of these things, my mark is on the game, and like I, even if you hate it, you're still paying me for it. So yeah, sorry, I already got your money. Um,
Jeez.
yeah, but right, that's my true colors. I just want all
Did you make
the money. I just want to
the
throw out
Osher
crap.
camo for the
Uh,
for the Osher achievement?
yeah, oh wait,
The one that kind of
which
looks like a tropical shirt?
no, that was Bishop.
I love that
That was
camo.
Chris
I
Bishop.
wish I had
Yeah,
it. I wish I had it.
yeah, that
I
was
didn't
dope.
grind the
I don't have it
development hard
either.
enough. Yeah.
Yeah,
Especially now when Osher is not as populated, really hard to get that done.
yeah,
It reminds me of what was his name? Was it Nick? Nick Shirts?
yeah.
The shirts
That's
he used
that's
to
the
wear?
basis for it.
Oh,
Is yeah, because we talked about it on stream, and then people would like occasionally comment like, "Yeah, we should get a camo of this Nick's shirt." And then Bishop went and did one. Actually, did one for every faction.
uh-huh.
So the bird's slightly different and the pattern's slightly different and that sort of thing. I love that camo so much. It's so good.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Anyway, so we were talking about how you you have touched everything. You're the only person on the Planetside team who could just go all the way from A to Z with a thing without needing to lean on anybody else. You taught yourself a lot of what you needed, even if it wasn't in your wheelhouse. And it sounds like you're reliving that with your survival game.
Yeah, but the creativity part I enjoy.
Yeah.
So even though my art isn't up to my standards at the moment, there's a part of me that's like I could learn that,
Uh
or
huh.
I can get better at that.
Uh
You
huh.
know?
And then at the end of the day, everything you look at is like, I did this.
Yeah,
That's a cool feeling.
yeah,
Cool. Cool. So one of the pieces of I think I watched like the indie game movie. I can't remember what it was called exactly. The one with where they followed a few different game devs around. Okay, dumb anecdote. I can't remember it. Shut up, Deeg. Um, where I'm going with this though is the bit of advice that I heard in that was to not make your dream game as your first game because those your dream game is usually too big for you to make when you're getting started out, and it's better for you to narrow in on a much smaller minimal viable product MVP just to get in the reps of making of actually finishing a game. Did you go into this with that in mind, or where do you fall with that?
So I totally understand and agree with that advice. And the game that I'm making is not my dream game because my dream game would take a team to pull off. And I'm not even sure what my dream game would be, honestly. I'm pretty good with just making, I don't know. I So ideas are easy. There's no one dream. I have journals full of stuff back from, when I was like 12 years old maybe. And So it's to the point where I can make anything that I'm happy with and be happy making it.
Mhm.
So that's the goal, I think.
Sure.
That being said, this game is probably the advice would be to not even start with the one that I'm making as far as size goes. Like start with easy little
Do a
stuff.
platformer.
Put it on, yeah, like put the stuff on itch.io or um, yeah, it would be it's solid advice to get in the habit of making games. I'm not going to listen to it. I'm just gonna do my own thing and then see what happens. Because yeah, if it doesn't pan out, then it'll be a good lesson, uh, and I'm sure that I'll end up working on games regardless. So
Yeah, it sounds like even if this doesn't work out, you still feel like you can go back into the industry and get another job working for someone else.
yeah, I think so.
Yeah. 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 Hmm. So, you said you don't have one dream game. What are some of the games you've dreamed that come to top of mind when you think about the idea of dream game?
There was one a long time ago. This was back before I was in the Navy that I was writing up. That was like a massively multiplayer MMORPG that had there was like three. It was like World of Warcraft style, but it was mostly PvP oriented. So similar to Planetside 2, but this was before Planetside 2. Full disclosure, and but it was like a fantasy game, and you would move like everybody would have capital cities. It'd be kind of evenly spaced so that you could wage war,
Mhm.
and it was under the premise of the like every how there's like Thrall and Sylvanas and whatever the faction
Mhm.
heads are.
Yeah.
She's not gonna
Hey,
hear me.
Saoirse. This
Um,
this is this is our little routine. When she's thirsty, she comes harasses me on my desk. Like
oh,
a few months ago, she wanted some water, and so what I did was I just poured. I'm a Diet Coke addict, right? Poured some water on the bottom of a Diet Coke can. And now this is what she expects every day.
that's pretty good. Oh,
Gives me a chance to give her a few pets without her fighting me back.
that's funny.
She's a sweetheart. Anyway, you were saying about your dream game, the different
Yeah,
capital cities with the faction leaders.
yeah. Like all the faction leaders would actually be like sirens, and their song is what like compelled the player to go like do the actual fighting, and then that's why everybody was at war. And then
Like
also there was like
like
some
the
weird rhythm
manipulation
game stuff in it too. Yeah,
rhythm game.
yeah, I know it was really weird, and I don't think that this game would work at all. Um, but that was
Power
like
of the
one of the
music.
ideas that I had. Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
you'd
dig
have
it.
to. It was like an MMORPG, but you would time certain abilities with certain things, and you could like change your song, like the one that was like playing in your head,
Mm,
which would like some of it would give you like just different benefits, and it'd be kind of like different. So the timing would be different, and
yeah.
it would give you like healing, or it'd give you more damage, or that sort of thing. So there's like some
Sure.
stance dancing involved.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, it was yeah, learning over time though, like actually being in the industry, I could say that that game would not survive first contact with an audience. So
What the hell is this?
yeah,
Yeah, also like with MMOs, the thing that MMO players do is they turn off the music. So make an MMO based on
yeah,
music,
yeah.
you're kind of fighting the instinct of MMO
That's a
gamers.
good point.
Yeah. Um, very distracted by this cat. Sorry. She wants me to open the window to let her have a look. But the thing is, if I do that, then you're barely gonna see me because of the glare. So I'm just gonna wait her out. See what she does. Um, a music MMO with
Yeah,
sirens.
don't dwell on it.
What else you got? You also have other stuff.
uh, that's a good question. I would really like to. I think most of my dream game stuff is actually like MMO RPG territory,
Why is that?
and I feel like it probably comes from just how much enjoyment I got out of World of Warcraft,
Yeah,
and also so many attempts to play other MMOs that just for some reason weren't scratching the same itch.
yeah,
Yeah, like I was really excited about the idea of WildStar, and then that just
hmm,
like died.
yeah.
You know,
Uh, really died.
yeah,
Isn't it
kind of
crazy
insane.
that video games can just go away like that?
Yeah,
Like, they can just
that's how.
like it's not like any other piece of art or entertainment. It's like
Yeah,
making one of those little sand pieces of art that you destroy after it's done.
word.
It's weird, man. Um, oh, I remember something I was going to say about your music game idea.
Okay.
Talking about MMOs and music, it made me think of who cares? This is a dumb anecdote. Whatever. Uh, Guild Wars 2 is the MMO that I sort of pay attention to um, these days, and I saw that someone made an add-on. The purpose of the add-on is to help you practice a damage rotation, an ability rotation, right? Playing an MMO, tab target, you have a rotation of abilities that maximize for damage or healing or whatever. And the way that they implemented the mod was as like a rhythm game where they have bars and the abilities that go by, and you have to
Well,
try to
there you
do it
go.
in a rhythm. And they put some. I think there's some music in it too. So
Awesome.
I
That's
don't
like
know.
exactly what I'm thinking of. That'd
Yeah,
be dope.
yeah. I have to check that out, especially because I'm so out of touch. I don't actually know what a good damage rotation looks like anymore.
Hmm,
Yeah. Ah, let's think. So, are you going to stick with being known as Rel, or do we get to use your real name one of these days?
um, I think you can call
Do
me
you
whatever you want.
do you have an opinion about it anymore?
No, I think it's all good.
Okay, Michael.
Okay, I hate it. Rel is fine.
Okay. All right. We'll do Rel. That's fine. Well, what else is on your radar, dude? Um, obviously you're being kept busy by uh this ticking time clock you have to make something. Um, but what else is on your mind? Any games that have come out recently that have captured your attention? Any media? Any Facebook thread that you're passionately arguing with someone on?
Uh, Now Diablo 4 is, man, they did such a good job with it.
Mm.
It is it is insane.
How so?
Just the all the things that have changed from Diablo 3 to Diablo 4, or from Diablo 2 to Diablo 4, and just the way that they handle certain things. It's like, so just as an example, you know how you used to have to play the, well, I don't, okay, if you follow Diablo or Diablo style games, Path of Exile, what have you, there's usually like a jigsaw puzzling of inventory items of different sizes and that sort of thing. They just
Yeah.
like abolish that.
Yeah.
Everything's standard. I think gold is shared like across accounts because who cares at this point? They do the gold scaling based on your level, and like, I mean, there's maybe some problems with that, but it's very easy to respec. Just as an example, like you go down a tree and then just like click some buttons, and because they know that players just want to try cool builds, why
Mhm.
make it more difficult than it should
Mhm.
be?
Why lock people in?
Like,
Mhm.
yeah, you don't have to identify items anymore, which, you used to have to buy scrolls to do that, and then like town scrolls to teleport back. Now you can just do that normally. There's just like a lot of small quality of life stuff that ends up being a very clean, fresh experience, and it surprised me. Um,
Mm.
yeah, just how good it is. So
Hmm.
I'm sure that'll all break down once I play it for 100 hours or whatever.
How much have you put
Uh,
in?
Not that much at all.
Okay.
I think probably in the um, maybe in the 50s,
Mhm.
but we'll see
Mm,
um,
mm.
how long I can stick with it. I haven't actually beat the campaign. First, I've been man, the amount of hardcore characters that I've lost so far, it's been insane. Um, yeah, so like Diablo 4 is cool. Overwatch, I just started playing that again, and I'm really
What's your
having
hero?
fun with the competitive. Uh, it depends. I'll flex and play a bunch of different things, but May is my best hero. Echo, I'm pretty good with too. Zarya for the tank or Roadhog, and then Brigitte for heals, and that's
Okay.
pretty much it.
Okay. I can tell it's been a long time since I've played Overwatch because about a third of those I don't know.
Yeah, it's I think it's worth jumping back into if you have an interest in those style of games just to play. I know they got like a lot of flack with the
Yeah.
development of Overwatch 2, which is it's a weird sort of situation to kind of
Yeah.
I'm sure have to develop for, and then also have to uh, like I'm sure there was a reason for it besides just money, if I had to guess.
For them
But
scaling
I think
back
they
and taking away the hero mode or whatever that they announced. Yeah.
which one was that?
Oh, so my understanding from what I've gleaned, and this is not a deep cut or anything, is that they announced Overwatch 2, same PvP with some tweaks, like going from 6 player teams to 5. And but that the big payload of Overwatch 2 is going to be like a new PvE hero mode. I think like a horde mode of some kind. I don't know much about it. Um and that there would be like also a story mode and some kind of like PvE progression with like talent trees for the heroes. Uh, and My understanding is that that got the headline is PvE is canceled, but what I actually think I read was that the hero mode got taken off the table. And when I looked into it a little further, it sounded like um, that clearly I gathered this from a few different sources because I can't remember where any of it came from. But it sounded like the big idea for Overwatch was actually to grow it over time into an MMO.
Hmm,
And it sounds like the brakes got put on to that, and to go into an Overwatch 2 and then an Overwatch 3, and then I don't know, because
okay.
it was born from an old idea of a Blizzard MMO called Titan. I don't know if you've heard of it,
Yeah,
uh,
yeah,
but anyway, that's what I heard.
yeah. Well, fortunately, the PVE mode at least seems to be something that they're still working toward. They just released a trailer for it not too long ago.
For the story stuff,
Um, I don't know how much of it is story and how much of it's just PVE
okay,
related content.
okay,
But it seems I don't know. At least some things seem to be on track.
could be I'm
But
full of it. Sounds like the PvP is what you're
yeah,
interested in anyway.
if- yeah, yeah. For the most part, I've dabbled in like some of the PVE stuff that they did do in Overwatch 1, but haven't done that yet in Overwatch 2.
Okay, cool. Yeah, and you were saying it's a good game if you like that kind of thing. Um, Overwatch is very cool. Was very cool. Uh, it's a casualty of a continuing story of me figuring out exactly what it is I personally need to get out of video games. Why I stopped playing Overwatch. I figured out a little while ago that basically any kind of game that has match made PvP, I just don't care for.
Hmm.
Some of the transactional nature of it, but that doesn't work for me. And actually, I had an experience. I've been having an experience, to be a better way of saying it, outside of the world of gaming, in the great outdoors, where I've been getting back into, as I've been getting healthier, I got back into singing. So I grew up a choir boy. My mom was a music director. I always sang in the choir with my siblings. And then about 10 years ago, I got referred to um, the local chapter of the Barbershop Harmony Society. Uh, Barbershop is an a cappella form of music, traditionally sung for male voices. There's also a female version of it called Sweet Adelines, but whatever. Anyway, I found a chapter out here in Seattle a few months ago, and I've been going out there. And what I like about this particular chapter, and I'm not sure how unique it is in the overall world of barbershop, but is it's so damned unpretentious. Like they really are like show up and sing with us. And there are people in the chorus who, if you sing a pitch out loud, it's hard for them to match it. Like it is not, it is not, uh, there's like not a hint of elitism in it. And I think that is so fun because what it ends up maximizing for is this community aspect of it, which is people who want to come together and sing. And that's what it ends up being. Um, and in the world of barbershop, there's this grand tradition of afterglows, which is basically after an event, like a rehearsal or a show or whatever, you keep the night going, you find a local bar, get some drinks, and the real singing begins, usually at a much louder volume. And it's just it's a form of music that is very participatory. You're always teaching things to each other. There's this you aren't just singing full songs, you're doing these things called tags, which is just the end of the song. So it's just a few bars. And people will learn all four parts for a tag and they'll teach it to a group and they'll all learn it and sing it together. And then that they'll take turns, switch parts. It's the reason I'm bringing all this up and giving all this probably unnecessary detail is because that experience and seeing what I've been getting out of it and appreciating the community and the people and getting to know people over time and also having a skill component of it where how well you sing, like it does have an effect on the way people see you, but it's not all of it. And everyone is included at the end of the day anyway. Um, it's actually a little like Planetside in that way. But what it did was it helped me realize that what I'm actually getting out of gaming by comparison, which I'm now getting at a much, let's say, higher dose from doing music in the real world, is the sense of connection, is this feeling of being part of something larger, part of a community, part of a group of people who are trying to do something bigger than any one person. And the thing about barbershop that I love is that one person can't do it. It takes at least four people to make barbershop. Um, and that is an itch I desperately need to scratch. And I'll come home from a night where I've been singing, out drinking, singing, street corners, whatever. And I'll sit in front of a video game. I'm like, I just can't. And I don't know. That's a little unfolding that I'm still working through in my head and understanding it. Um, this whole podcast tradition was born out of the problem of what exactly am I trying to get out of gaming? That's what brought me here. So I can't remember why that came up or what I'm relating it back to, but I don't know. Feels like an
That's
important
cool
thing to
though.
figure out.
Yeah. No, it's cool that you have found something that sparks something within you, I guess.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It really lights something up for sure. Yeah.
Or
How what what would you say you get out of gaming for the games you play? Overwatch, whatever. Is there any one thing?
No, that's something that I think, is definitely all over the place, and it totally depends on the game. That's
Okay.
something that I've noticed with, so when thinking about, the archetypes of gamers, whether you're going back to Barl or one of the others that I can't remember, um, it's difficult to say that I fall into any particular one, and not that you're meant to. Like everybody's kind of a combination of like,
Yeah.
some people are achievers or killers or
Right.
socializers, blah blah blah. But I noticed that also drastically differs from game to game. Like when I'm in Valheim, I just want to like, I really just want to build, but at the same time, I don't want to do it in creative mode or anything. It's
Yeah.
like close to
Yeah.
that.
Yes.
I want to actually like chop down the trees and like earn stuff
Can you
because
help me understand that? Because I'm that way too when I play those kinds of games.
it's working within limitations. Like that's what creates
Mm.
the creativity is
Mhm.
because you can only do this.
Mm.
Um, at least that's for me. Like I wouldn't start just as an example from a parking lot and then like build up the terrain around it and that sort of thing. I
Mhm.
want to build whatever I'm building off of what already exists and
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
trim and mold and that sort of thing because then you come up with something interesting.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, the limitations aspect I think is that's at least what I've identified is what's inspiring that for me.
That seems wise. Okay.
Yeah. And from other games, like Overwatch, just as an example, the competitive nature. Um, Planetside 2 was never really that for me. I just want to hang out and shoot people and drive around and I don't know, just like jump in vehicles. And I
Mhm.
think the connection to other players is actually something that was really interesting as well. Like I'll just jump into another dude's vehicle, or another person's vehicle, and like just trawl around for a little bit,
See what
and
he does.
yeah, and then just jump out after I'm bored or whatever. Or maybe like we're really like somebody in a harasser picked me up back when I was playing during the big construction release, and we just like romped around for quite a while, and they were totally cool with just like driving me around and we'd go and repair it. It's just like it felt very organic because
Mhm.
they were just like, I need a gunner. Like, okay, now I'm your gunner for the next
Mhm.
30 minutes or whatever. Uh, so I think that's something that's you don't really find that elsewhere. Yeah, and then like games like Diablo, it's more about the um, I like to see how the characters develop over time, just the progression and like achieving things so that I can make the cool builds so that um, just like the character handles differently. I think that's like a
Yeah.
fun, intriguing puzzle
Mhm.
to figure out.
Progress and payoffs. Mhm.
Yeah, so I think they're all different,
Mhm.
which
Mhm.
maybe I don't know. Yeah, yeah. There's probably more of a thought in there somewhere, but I can't find it.
That's okay. That's okay. Yeah, I guess maybe I'm the weird one where I seem to have this one thing that I'm trying to get at, and it's coming out of me in different ways.
So that
Maybe I,
connection.
yeah, it's some kind of great problem that that my life is trying to solve. Is how to connect with people. I really, really care about it. I really care about it, and it comes up pretty much everywhere. Um, I wonder if I'll ever scratch the itch and move on to the next thing.
I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing. If you
Yeah,
do,
me neither. Me neither. Well, Rel, can we count on seeing you hopping in some random harassers and Planetside in future days, or are you relieved to wash your hands of it for a while?
I am stepping away from all that for a while.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. Um, Whenever you get back to making YouTube content, I'll be really excited to see what you do. And
Cool.
of course, I'm really, really excited to see you, what fruit uh, spring from the tree of your imagination when it comes to the survival game or whatever it ends up being.
Me too, man. We'll see how it goes.
You have anything else you want to talk about?
No, I think we've covered a lot.
Yeah, man. Well, I'm sure we'll talk again, and I'll look forward
Word.
to that. Thank you for taking the time, and thank you for making Planetside for 7 years. Um, I I feel like there's so much more muck we could drag through when it comes to that, but I also feel like we've said it. How do you feel?
I feel like the community has explored a lot of the topics in their own way.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's
If
all
you
good.
could offer, I guess you already have given your parting message to the Planetside community. Is there anything else between the lines that you want to add in this more casual way? Anything you
Not in
want to?
particular.
All right, all right, fair enough. We've probably already said it. Well, do you want to? I know we've talked about your projects. Is there anything anywhere you want me to direct people to? Anything you want to promote?
No, actually, just because I can't make any promises to how active I'll be and when
Yeah,
I'll be active. So I'm sure I'll become somebody's problem here at some point.
sure. Well, I look forward to watching you succeed, brother.
Thanks.
Keep on it and find a way to be good to yourself, please.
Word.
That's all I got. Um, thanks, and thanks for listening.
Thanks for
Happy
having me.
podcast.